Welcome, seekers of deeper stories, to Best Models. Tonight, we don't just glance at a familiar face from a world of flickering screens. We descend into the labyrinth of a life far more complex than any 20-minute scene could ever convey. This is not a celebration of an industry, but a forensic examination of a journey, a story of fractured beginnings, desperate gambles, and the eternal human search for worth, control, and a place to belong. This is the story of Sarah J. Buckle up. It's a raw, unfiltered ride from the quiet suburbs to the blinding lights of a multi-billion-dollar empire and the profound lessons etched in the scars along the way. Sarah Marie Jepsen entered the world on July 17, 1977, in Glendale, California. The sun-drenched, palm tree-lined streets of Southern California painted a picture of idyllic suburban normalcy, a facade that would profoundly shape her inner world. From the very beginning, Sarah was a child of energy and expression. Not the loud, attention-demanding kind, but one who communicated through a keen observation of others and a natural inclination towards performance. Before she could even fully articulate her thoughts, she was mimicking expressions, learning that a smile could disarm, a certain look could get her what she wanted. This was her first unconscious education in the currency of image. Her family life was the crucible. Her father, a figure often spoken of with a complex mix of distance and a yearning for his approval, was a traditional man with expectations that often felt like walls. He represented a world of clear rules, quiet strength, and a love that was rarely verbally expressed but demonstrated through provision and protection. For a sensitive, perceptive girl like Sarah, this could feel like emotional starvation. Their relationship was a delicate dance. She craved his validation, his overt pride, but often felt she was performing for a judge who withheld the highest scores. He wanted stability, safety, a conventional path for his daughter. She felt a restless, creative spark that those paths seemed to suffocate. This fundamental disconnect, the desire to please a father whose vision of success felt alien, planted a deep seed. It created a duality, the good girl, striving for traditional approval, and the hidden self that dreamed of breaking free to define success on her own, radically different terms. Sarah's childhood schools, the typical American elementary and middle schools of the Glendale Unified School District, were her first real-world stages. Here, the lessons of home were amplified. She learned to navigate cliques, to read social hierarchies, and to understand that popularity was a form of power. She was pretty, intelligent, but not necessarily the star. She existed on the edges of the it crowd, close enough to observe its mechanics, far enough to feel like an outsider looking in. This position of observer, never quite fully belonging, sharpened her instincts. She became a student of human desire, noticing what made people laugh, what made them turn their heads, what made them feel important. Academically, she was capable but uninspired. The structured lessons of history and math couldn't compete with the live-action drama of the school social scene. Her real education was in the hallways, at lunch tables, and at weekend gatherings. She learned that femininity was a toolkit, and each tool, innocence, charm, wit, allure, had its specific use. This wasn't a cynical calculation, but a survival mechanism, a way to carve out a space and an identity. She experimented with different versions of herself: the friendly girl, the funny girl, the slightly mysterious girl. Each performance was a probe, testing which Sarah received the most validation, the most connection. High school marked the point where childhood exploration hardened into more conscious strategy. The stakes felt higher, the social divisions more pronounced. Her relationship with her father grew more strained as she developed her own tastes, her own ideas, her own body. The protective, sometimes rigid love he offered felt more like confinement. Arguments, often silent and simmering, were about curfews, friends, future plans. He saw risk. She saw living. It was during these years that Sarah's understanding of her own power began to crystallize. She realized that the male gaze, something she had been aware of since puberty, was not just an annoyance or a threat. It was a force that could be, to some degree, directed. She saw how other girls wielded it, for good and for ill. She also saw the backlash, the labels, the hypocrisy. This duality fascinated and frustrated her. She felt the power of her own attractiveness but was acutely aware of the prison of expectations that came with it. Be beautiful, but not too aware of it. Be sexy, but not sexual. Be desired, but never be the one who openly seeks desire. This period forged a steeliness beneath her California girl exterior. She was learning that in a world that sought to define her, the only real power lay in controlling the narrative herself. She just didn't know yet what that narrative would be. The stage was set, the protagonist was restless, and the script society had handed her was becoming unbearable. University beckoned, not as a path to enlightenment, but as the next logical, and ultimately disappointing, set in her personal play. Sarah enrolled in community college, a pragmatic choice that reflected the uncertainty of her path. The university experience, for many a time of intellectual awakening, was for Sarah an extension of her high school performance. She attended classes, completed assignments, but her mind was elsewhere. She was going through the motions of building a future, all the while feeling a growing emptiness. The majors offered, business, liberal arts, communications, felt like costumes that didn't fit. They promised a future of offices, routines, and a slow dilution of the vibrant, if confused energy she felt within. She took on part-time jobs, waitressing, retail. These roles were another form of theater. The cheerful waitress, the helpful sales associate, they were characters she played well. But behind the smile was a mounting frustration. She was trading her time, her energy, her very presence, for a pittance. The economics of it began to anger her. She saw men in suits making decisions that affected lives, saw the structured hierarchy of the working world, and sensed that the ladder she was being asked to climb was leaning against the wrong wall. Her father, seeing her drift, likely urged her to find a focus, to stick with something. Their conversations, if they happened at all about her future, were probably exercises in mutual misunderstanding. He spoke of security, pensions, respectability. She heard a life sentence of boredom. The chasm between the life she was supposed to want and the life she felt pulsating within her grew into an abyss. After her stint in college, which ended without a degree, Sarah entered the true drift of early adulthood. The jobs were unfulfilling, the relationships often transient. Los Angeles, the city of angels and shattered dreams, has a way of amplifying feelings of inadequacy. Everyone was an actor, a model, a musician, a screenwriter. Everyone was selling a dream. Sarah had the looks, the presence, but not the blueprint. The conventional modeling world could be just as ruthless and exploitative as the waitressing jobs, with even more rejection and arbitrary standards. It was during this period of existential limbo that the idea of the adult film industry shifted from a taboo, shadowy concept to a tangible, if terrifying, possibility. The catalyst was likely a combination of desperation and a twisted sense of opportunity. The desperation, bills piling up, the fear of a future defined by struggle, the visceral understanding that her youth, her primary capital in a superficial economy, was depreciating with each passing day. The opportunity. She heard stories, met people on the edges of the industry. The money was fast and substantial compared to anything she'd ever earned. The control, paradoxically, seemed more direct. A contract for a specific act, a specific time, for specific pay. No corporate ladder, no fake smiles for 8 hours straight for a manager's approval. It was brutal, but it was honest in its brutality. Most crucially, it represented the ultimate rebellion against the script, against her father's world, against society's respectable path. It was a nuclear option for self-definition. If the world was going to look at her as a sexual object anyway, she would seize that narrative, weaponize it, and most importantly, get paid for it. It wasn't a joyful embracing of sexuality. It was a calculated, defiant hijacking of the male gaze for survival and agency. In a moment of profound crisis, it appeared not as a descent, but as a perverse form of ascent, a way to take control by surrendering to the very thing she was supposed to fear. The decision wasn't made lightly. It involved a psychological rupture. Sarah Marie Jepsen, the girl from Glendale, the daughter, the student, the waitress, had to be compartmentalized, locked away. In her place, Sarah J. was born, a brand, a persona, a protected shell. The name change was essential. It was a firewall between the act and the self, however fragile that firewall might be. Her entry into the industry in the late 1990s was methodical. She contacted agencies, got test shoots. The initial experiences were a shock to the system, a brutal demystification. The sets were not palaces of decadence, but often crummy, fluorescent-lit rooms. The people were not libertines but workers, directors, camera operators, other performers, all with their own baggage and stories. The transactional nature was laid bare. It was work, physically demanding, emotionally draining work. She learned the rules of this new game fast. You negotiated your limits. You developed a professional detachment. You learned which co-stars were professional, which to avoid. You managed your money, because the torrent of cash could dry up as quickly as it came. The initial empowerment of taking control quickly met the reality of an industry built on consumption and disposability. The gaze she thought she was hijacking was, in fact, an insatiable machine, and she was now a part feeding it. Sarah J., the persona, was a success. Her girl-next-door looks, combined with an intensity and professionalism, made her marketable. She worked consistently, building a filmography that numbers in the hundreds. She became a known entity. The money solved the immediate problems, the bills, the rent, the financial anxiety that had plagued her drift years. But the cost was a quiet, creeping tax on the soul. The compartmentalization began to crack. The persona of Sarah J. started to bleed into Sarah Marie. The detachment required on set became a harder state to leave behind. Relationships outside the industry became fraught with secrecy, shame, or a fear of judgment. The relationship with her father, one can only imagine, faced its ultimate trial. How does one explain this choice? The silence likely became a canyon. The psychological diseases mentioned in the query, depression, anxiety, dissociation, post-traumatic stress, are not outliers in this field. They are occupational hazards. The human psyche is not built to repeatedly engage in the most intimate acts as routine labor, under lights, with strangers, for a camera. It requires a profound splitting of self. Sarah, like many, would have had to confront these shadows. The industry offers little in the way of aftercare. Once your marketability wanes, you're on your own with the psychological bill that has come due. Her later career shift to directing and producing was a critical move. It was an attempt to move from being the product to controlling the product. To step behind the camera was to reclaim a measure of authorship, to transition from performer to creator. This is a common arc for those with the stamina and business acumen to survive the performer phase. It's a move from the front lines to a command post, still within the same war, but with more agency. It spoke to a resilience and an intelligence that the simplistic porn star label never captures. To the young men watching on this channel and everywhere, Sarah J's story is a stark mirror. It is not a titillating fantasy. It is a case study in the economics of desperation, the search for identity, and the devastating cost of shortcuts. You look at the surface, the fame, the money, the perceived power, and it can be seductive. But you are not seeing the whole picture. You are seeing the performance, the carefully lit and edited final product. You are not seeing the quiet horror of the 23-year-old girl in a cold studio, dissociating to get through a scene so she can pay a past-due electric bill. You are not seeing the 35-year-old woman struggling to form a trusting, intimate relationship because her neural pathways for intimacy have been wired to commerce. You are not seeing the fractured family, the silent dinners, the lost holidays. The psychological diseases are real. They are the hidden surcharge on every scene you watch for free. They manifest as a hollowing out of the self, a corrosion of the spirit's ability to experience joy, connection, and peace without a transactional filter. The industry sells a fantasy of limitless pleasure, but its real product, for too many who work within it, is profound inner emptiness. So, here is the urgent advice, the core of what a story like this should teach you. 1. Learn a craft. Build a kingdom. Your energy, your ambition, your hunger for significance, channel it into building something that lasts. A skill, a trade, a business, a piece of art. The focus required to master plumbing, coding, welding, graphic design, accounting, or starting a landscaping company is the antithesis of the distracted, passive consumption the adult industry promotes. This focus is masculine in its most noble sense. It is about creation, provision, and legacy. It is about solving problems, not escaping into fantasy. The high you get from landing a client, finishing a project, or seeing your business grow is a genuine, sustainable pride that no illicit video can ever simulate. 2. Your mind is your most valuable asset. Do not pollute it. The consumption of adult content is a theft of time and a corruption of imagination. It rewires your brain to seek instant, effortless dopamine hits at the cost of real-world effort and connection. It creates a distorted map of human relationships, sexuality, and women's humanity. It teaches you to be a spectator in your own life. Guard your attention and your psyche as the sacred resources they are. The time you spend in that shadow world is time stolen from building your skills, nurturing real relationships, and cultivating a strong, disciplined mind. 3. Seek real challenge, not artificial stimulation. The path of true fulfillment is paved with obstacles overcome. The struggle of learning, the frustration of failure, the perseverance to try again, these are the fires that forge a man of substance. The adult industry offers a bypass, a cheap simulation of intimacy and conquest that leaves you weaker, not stronger. Embrace the real struggle. Let it temper you. The confidence that comes from genuine competence dwarfs any false confidence gleaned from a screen. 4. Build companies, not fantasies. Direct your competitive spirit, your aggression, your desire to win, into the arena of commerce and innovation. Build a team. Create jobs. Serve a community with a product or service that improves lives. That is a legacy. That is a story you can tell your father, your future children, yourself with your head held high. The empire you build in the real world will shelter you and those you love. The fantasy empire built in your mind offers no shelter at all. Sarah J's journey, from the searching girl in Glendale to the industry veteran, is a cautionary tale about the price of defining oneself through the distorted mirror of others' desires. For every fleeting moment of fame or financial respite, there was a payment extracted from the soul. You, the young man with your life ahead of you, have a choice. You can be a consumer of shadows or a creator of light. You can focus your life force on building a world or on escaping from it. The path of the craft, the company, the focused mind, it is harder, slower, often frustrating. But it leads to a summit from which you can see a horizon you built with your own hands. The other path leads into a labyrinth where the walls are made of screens, and the minotaur waiting in the center is your own neglected potential. Choose the mountain. Build your kingdom. Leave the labyrinth for others to foolishly enter. Your future self and the family you one day hope to lead will thank you for the strength of that choice. This has been a deep dive on best models. Remember, the most compelling model for your life is not found on any screen, but in the blueprint of your own purpose. Build it well. 1. Learn a craft. Build a kingdom. Your energy, your ambition, your hunger for significance, channel it into building something that lasts. A skill, a trade, a business, a piece of art. The focus required to master plumbing, coding, welding, graphic design, accounting, or starting a landscaping company is the antithesis of the distracted, passive consumption the adult industry promotes. This focus is masculine in its most noble sense. It is about creation, provision, and legacy. It is about solving problems, not escaping into fantasy. The high you get from landing a client, finishing a project, or seeing your business grow is a genuine, sustainable pride that no illicit video can ever simulate. 2. Your mind is your most valuable asset. Do not pollute it. The consumption of adult content is a theft of time and a corruption of imagination. It rewires your brain to seek instant, effortless dopamine hits at the cost of real-world effort and connection. It creates a distorted map of human relationships, sexuality, and women's humanity. It teaches you to be a spectator in your own life. Guard your attention and your psyche as the sacred resources they are. The time you spend in that shadow world is time stolen from building your skills, nurturing real relationships, and cultivating a strong, disciplined mind. 3. Seek real challenge, not artificial stimulation. The path of true fulfillment is paved with obstacles overcome. The struggle of learning, the frustration of failure, the perseverance to try again, these are the fires that forge a man of substance. The adult industry offers